There are moments in life when the noise gets too loud, the weight feels too heavy, and hope seems like a distant light. But even then, there is still a whisper inside your soul. A whisper that says, "You are not alone." Welcome to Light of Hope, a quiet space for hearts that need healing, for minds that need rest, and for spirits that long to feel again. This is not just a video, it's a journey, a gentle invitation to return to what's always been within you. Faith, peace, and the unshakable truth that the light was never lost. You simply forgot where to look. There are seasons in life when everything around us moves too fast, too loud, too heavy. We wake up tired, we go to sleep anxious, and somewhere in between, we lose sight of what really matters. It's not always visible on the surface, the slow, aching drift away from peace. But deep within, the soul begins to whisper. Not with shouts, not with drama, but with a still, small voice. Come back, it says. Come back to what is true. Come back to the light. That whisper isn't demanding. It doesn't guilt trip. It simply invites. It beckons us away from the noise, from the scrolling, the comparing, the performing. It leads us to stillness. In that stillness, we remember things we forgot, like how grace doesn't have to be earned, and how love doesn't shout to be heard. In stillness, we hear God again, not as a distant ruler, but as a father who never left, a friend who understands the weight we carry, a light that gently breaks the darkness. The whisper of the soul is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is strength in a different form. It is the inner compass pointing home. You don't need to fix everything before you respond. You don't need to have it all together before you return. You just need to pause, to breathe, to listen, and then take one step, just one, toward the light of hope. Sometimes, the heaviest burdens we carry are the ones no one else can see. Not the deadlines, not the to-do lists, not even the griefs that come with a name, but the quiet ache that lingers beneath the surface. The pressure to always be okay, the silent comparisons, the fear that if we're honest about our struggles, we'll somehow lose love, respect, or belonging. So we put on a smile. We show up. We say, "I'm fine," with a practiced tone. And yet, inside, we feel like we're slowly drowning in expectations, in disappointments, in the longing for something more. The weight of unspoken pain is a thief. It steals joy in the name of strength. It whispers lies in moments of silence, and it builds walls between us and others, us and God, even us and ourselves. But what if the very thing you're hiding is what could lead you to healing? What if weakness isn't your disqualification, but your doorway to grace? Scripture doesn't say come when you're strong. It says come, all who are weary. That includes you. That includes today. The truth is, you were never meant to carry it all alone. Not the hidden fears, not the secret shame, not the pain you think disqualifies you. When Jesus invited us to take his yoke upon us, it wasn't a call to perfection. It was a call to surrender, to stop performing and start receiving. Because his burden is light, not because life becomes easy, but because love lifts where we cannot. Hope holds when we slip. Grace enters when we let go. So maybe today is not about doing more. Maybe it's about laying something down, a fear, a facade, a need to always be strong. And in its place, picking up the quiet truth that you are still loved, you are still seen, and you are not alone. We live in a world that praises movement. Hustle is a virtue. Productivity is idolized. Success is measured in how much we can do, how fast we can respond, how busy we stay. And yet, in the sacred language of the soul, Presence is more powerful than progress. In God's economy, stillness speaks. Think of how many moments we miss, not because we aren't trying hard enough, but because we aren't truly here. We're there, but not there. We're with people, but scrolling. We're praying, but distracted. We're breathing, but barely noticing. And all the while, the presence of God is not waiting on the other side of our accomplishments. He's already here, in the now, in the ordinary, in the silence between our words. His love is not just something to be learned, it's something to be encountered. An encounter only happens in presence. Jesus never rushed people. He never said, "Hurry up and be healed." He paused. He looked them in the eyes. He stayed. What if we lived like that? What if healing began not with fixing ourselves, but simply learning to be here fully, with our breath, with our fears, with God? Being present doesn't mean we stop dreaming or growing. It means we stop running from the moment we're in. Because the moment you're in is holy, even in its mess, even in its confusion, even in the waiting. Presence is not a passive thing. It's an act of courage. It's choosing to feel instead of flee. It's holding the pain long enough to let it speak and then letting it go. It's listening, not just hearing, seeing, not just looking, loving, not just touching. And when we live like this, something shifts. We stop feeling like we're always behind. We stop needing to prove our worth. We begin to notice the fingerprints of God in the mundane. We begin to realize we were never called to outrun our lives. We were called to be present in them. And in this presence, we don't just find peace, we find Him. There is something profoundly beautiful about a fresh start, not because it erases the past, but because it reclaims the future. In life, we often think we need to be perfect before we begin again. We think we need a clean slate, a flawless record, a heart free from cracks. But grace doesn't wait for us to be spotless. Grace meets us in the rubble, in the wreckage, in the whisper of "I don't know how to go on." Beginning again is not a sign of weakness. It's the evidence of life, of hope refusing to give up, of a heart still willing to try. And it's not something we earn, it's something we receive. From the God who makes all things new. The God who took Peter back after denial, Thomas after doubt, Paul after violence. The God who restores, not because we deserve it, but because that's what love does. You may feel like you've failed too many times, like you've drifted too far, like your mistakes define you. But grace says otherwise. Grace calls you by a different name: beloved, redeemed, free. The truth is, the past cannot be changed, but the present can be claimed, and the future rewritten. Every breath you take is a new beginning. Every sunrise is a silent invitation. Every "I'm still here" is a quiet miracle. So don't wait until you feel worthy. Don't wait until it all makes sense. Begin again now, with the broken pieces, with the scars, with the questions. Bring them all to the one who knows how to rebuild from ashes. He's not asking you for perfection. He's asking you for your yes. And when you give it, you'll find that starting over isn't about going back. It's about going forward differently, with more softness, more courage, more clarity. Beginning again is not starting from scratch. It's starting from experience. And in God's hands, even your most fragile start again holds infinite possibility. In a world obsessed with speed, progress, and instant results, waiting can feel like failure. We measure value by how quickly things change, how fast we grow, how immediate the breakthrough comes. But the soul doesn't work like an algorithm. Healing doesn't follow a schedule. and the deepest transformations are almost always the slowest. God is never in a rush. He is not hurried by our timelines, nor anxious about our delay. His work is deep, deliberate, and often invisible like roots growing underground, unnoticed but essential. The slow work of God is where real change happens. It's the in-between spaces, between prayer and answer, between loss and healing, between falling and rising. It's where patience is forged, trust is deepened, and character is shaped not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. We don't like the shadows. We want clarity, certainty, speed. But God values depth over display, substance over spectacle. And sometimes, the very silence we fear is where He's doing His most intimate work. When we don't see progress, we assume He's absent. But what if He's just working slowly, on purpose? What if the wait is the work? Scripture is filled with people who waited. Abraham, Joseph, Moses, David, and none of them were disqualified by the delay. Instead, the delay became the preparation. The waiting became the shaping. The slow became sacred. To trust the slow work of God is to release control. To let go of deadlines we were never meant to carry. To believe that unseen does not mean undone. That progress can be quiet. That growth can look like stillness. And that faith, at its core, is often about standing in a field that looks barren and believing fruit will come. So breathe. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are in process. And God is still writing, still tending, still moving even when it feels still. The slow work of God is not wasted time. It is holy time. And those who wait with Him are never left empty. They are made whole, layer by layer, day by day, until what once felt buried becomes a garden of grace. There comes a time in every soul's journey when holding on becomes too heavy. Not because we are weak, but because what we're holding was never meant to be carried this far. Letting go is not about quitting. It's not about surrendering your values or abandoning hope. It's about recognizing when something is no longer life-giving, when what once served you is now silently draining you. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care, it means you care enough to stop fighting battles that aren't yours to win. We've been taught that perseverance is strength, and it is, but so is release. There is strength in unclenching your fists, in choosing peace over pride, in admitting that your way may not be the only way, or the best way, or even the way God intended. To let go is not to lose, it's to realign, to shift from striving to surrender, from force to flow, from control to trust. You are not giving up, you are giving back, giving that relationship back to God, giving that expectation, that burden, that timeline back into His hands. And in that act of release, you make room for healing, room for newness, room for what is instead of clinging to what was. Scripture is full of people who had to let go to step into what was next. Abraham letting go of his homeland, Ruth letting go of her past, Mary letting go of her plans. Even Jesus let go not of hope, but of His own will in the garden. And in that letting go came resurrection. Letting go is sacred. It's not the absence of faith, it's the purest form of it. It's saying, God, I don't know how this will unfold, but I trust You enough to stop forcing it. You were never created to carry everything. You were created to follow, to trust, to rest. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is release what you've been gripping so tightly, not because it has no value, but because it has served its season. What comes after the letting go may not always be immediate clarity. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's a long pause. But in that pause, God moves, not with noise, but with presence, not with fireworks, but with steady grace. And soon, what once felt like loss will begin to feel like space. Space for your soul to breathe again, space for His will to unfold. Space for hope, not the forced kind, but the gentle kind that grows in places where peace is finally allowed to take root. We often imagine joy as something loud, laughter echoing through rooms, celebrations overflowing with lights and voices. And while joy can be those things, it is also more subtle, more sacred. Sometimes it is not found in the mountaintop moments, but in the ordinary ones that slip past unnoticed. A warm cup of coffee held between two weary hands, the sound of wind weaving through the trees, a breath that enters without ache, a single text that says, "I'm thinking of you." These moments are not loud, but they are full. And often they are where joy is reborn, not with fireworks, but with a gentle flame. Rediscovering joy does not require a perfect life. It does not wait for circumstances to align. It begins when we stop postponing happiness for some future version of ourselves. When we stop saying, "I'll be happy when," and start asking, "What is beautiful now?" The truth is, joy is not found in having more, doing more, or proving more. It is found in noticing, in paying attention, in being present enough to taste, to see, to feel the gifts that have been quietly waiting for us. Scripture tells us that the joy of the Lord is our strength. That means joy is not just a feeling, it is a force, a spiritual fuel, a holy resistance to despair. And the beautiful thing is, joy doesn't require perfection, it requires permission. You have permission to smile even if your heart is still healing. You have permission to celebrate even if the breakthrough hasn't come. You have permission to laugh, to breathe, to savor the sunlight dancing across your window even if the world is still messy. This is not denial, this is defiance. It is choosing to say, darkness will not have the last word here. Joy is not the absence of sorrow, is the refusal to let sorrow steal everything. So look again, look closer. Joy may not be where you expected it. It may not be in the promotion or the applause. It may be in the quiet thank you, in the long walk home, in the way your soul exhaled when you finally forgave yourself. Don't wait for joy to come knocking. It's already here, hidden in the cracks, humming in the background, whispering, there's still beauty left to see. And the moment you stop searching for joy in grand gestures and start noticing it in small mercies, that's when it grows. That's when it roots. That's when it carries you, even through the storm. We speak of peace as if it's a treasure hidden somewhere out there, something we stumble upon in a perfect moment, a quiet place, or a season where everything finally makes sense. But true peace isn't found, it's built, brick by brick, breath by breath, choice by choice. Peace is not a place you escape to. It's a presence you carry within. And like anything sacred, it must be cultivated. There will always be noise around you. Opinions, demands, distractions, headlines, uncertainties. The world doesn't pause so you can be calm. But peace was never about what surrounds you. It has always been about what anchors you. It starts in the small, unseen places. The moment you pause before reacting. The moment you forgive instead of holding on. The moment you choose silence over striving. That is peace under construction. And it's not built on control, it's built on surrender. Surrender to the reality that you can't fix everything. That some answers will take time. That some things are meant to be let go, not figured out. Peace grows in the soil of trust. Trust in a God who sees beyond what you see. Trust in a timing that doesn't match your urgency but is never late. Trust that you don't have to have all the answers to rest. Think of Jesus asleep in the boat during the storm, not because the storm wasn't real, but because peace was stronger. The same peace that calmed the wind and waves is still available to you. Not as a magic spell, not as an escape hatch, but as a steady rhythm that begins when you choose to stop fighting everything you can't control. Building peace takes practice. It takes unlearning the lie that chaos is normal, that busy is holy, that unrest is proof of responsibility. It takes sitting still when you'd rather run. It takes quieting the voice that says you're falling behind, and listening to the one that says you're exactly where you need to be. It takes replacing panic with prayer, urgency with breath, self-reliance with dependence. And over time, what begins as a small shelter within your heart becomes a fortress, not impenetrable to pain, but resilient in love. Because peace isn't perfection, it's protection of your heart, your mind, your spirit. It's the sacred echo of God saying, "Be still, I am here." So today, you don't need to go looking for peace somewhere far away. You are the builder, and God is the foundation. One of the quietest battles we fight is the way we see ourselves. We carry mirrors made of memory, reflection, failure, and fear, and most days we believe them more than we believe truth. We become fluent in self-criticism, experts in highlighting our flaws. We replay every mistake and downplay every gift. And over time, without realizing it, we begin to love others with more grace than we offer ourselves. But what if the lens we're using is broken? What if we're not seeing ourselves as we are, but through the fog of shame, the residue of rejection, the echoes of words spoken by people who never really knew us? God sees differently. He sees with clarity, not distortion, with love, not condition, with purpose, not performance. To love yourself with God's eyes is not pride, it's healing. It's humility in its truest form, because it requires you to believe something bigger than your own opinion. It calls you to trust that your worth was not given by people, so it cannot be taken by people. It was sealed by the one who made you in love, for love. And that means your value doesn't fluctuate with your failures. Your beauty isn't erased by your brokenness. Your calling isn't voided by your wounds. God doesn't love a future version of you. He loves you now, in your questions, in your confusion, in your unfinished story. Loving yourself with God's eyes means looking at your scars and seeing survival, not shame. Looking at your sensitivity and seeing strength, not weakness. Looking at your struggle and seeing depth, not deficiency. It means silencing the voice that says, "I'm not enough," and replacing it with the truth that in Christ you are deeply known, fully loved, and always wanted. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily rewiring, a gentle, faithful relearning. Every time you catch yourself in a loop of self-blame, self-doubt, or self-hatred, stop and ask, is this how God sees me? If the answer is no, then don't give that voice power. Don't let a lie narrate your life. The more you align your inner vision with divine truth, the more your soul begins to rest, to heal, to rise, and you begin to see what He's always seen. A beloved creation, fearfully and wonderfully made, not by accident, not in error, but by design. When you love yourself with God's eyes, you stop striving to prove you belong. You start living like you already do. And that is where true freedom begins. There are valleys we walk through that silence even the strongest voices. Valleys of grief, of waiting, of questions with no answers. Valleys where prayers feel unanswered, where the nights stretch longer than we thought we could endure, and the light at the end feels more like a memory than a promise. In those places, hope can feel distant, faith can feel fragile, and joy seems like a foreign language we no longer speak. But here is a quiet truth. Valleys are not proof of God's absence. They are often where we encounter His presence most deeply, not because the pain disappears, but because our dependence deepens. Because when we can no longer sing in strength, we learn to sing in surrender. There's a song that only the valley can teach, a melody shaped by tears, by persistence, by choosing to believe even when belief feels like a whisper. This isn't the song of triumph, polished and loud. It's the song of yet. Yet I will praise. Yet I will trust. Yet I will show up one more day. To walk through the valley without losing your song doesn't mean you never doubt. It means you choose not to let the darkness define you. You sing anyway. Sometimes through clenched teeth. Sometimes through cracked voices. Sometimes through silence that still counts as worship. Because worship isn't only raised hands in bright rooms, sometimes trembling breaths in dark ones. The valley can teach you things the mountaintop never will. It reveals the difference between temporary happiness and anchored joy, between surface peace and soul-deep trust, between performance and presence. And most of all, it teaches you that God is not only the God of victory, He is the God of with you in the ache, with you in the not yet, with you when the world turns quiet. If you find yourself in that valley now, hear this: your song is not gone. It may be softer, it may be slower, but it still matters, and it still reaches heaven. You don't have to wait until you've emerged to worship. Sometimes the most sacred song is sung in the shadow. One step at a time, one note at a time, one breath of hope in a dry place. This is not the end of your story, and this valley will not silence your voice, because the song within you is not made of ease, it is made of eternity, and eternity always echoes in those who choose to sing, even in the dark. In a world constantly pushing us to become more successful, more impressive, more put together, it's easy to spend our lives chasing versions of ourselves we think we need to become. We wear masks, we play roles, we adjust our tone, our posture, our truth, trying to fit the image of what seems lovable, valuable, spiritual. But what if the journey is not about becoming someone else? What if it's about becoming who you already are? The you that existed before the pressure, before the labels, before the fear. The you that was formed in love, knit together in the womb, spoken into existence with delight. That version still lives within you, not lost, just layered, covered by years of expectation and performance, pain and striving. But God never forgot. He still sees that version clearly. And His invitation is not fix yourself so I can love you. It's let me peel back the layers so you can remember who you are. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not a project to be perfected. You are a person to be known. And in being known, to be freed. Becoming who you already are means unlearning the lies you've believed for too long. Lies that said you are too much or not enough, that your worth is conditional, that your voice doesn't matter. And it means replacing those lies with truth. The kind of truth that sets you free. Truth that says you are chosen, you are seen. You are loved not for what you do, but for who you are. You don't have to strive to earn that. You just have to receive it. This process isn't loud or dramatic. It's slow, quiet, holy. It happens in moments of honesty, in the silence of prayer, in the gentle shift when you stop apologizing for your softness, when you start listening to your soul instead of your shame. And over time, what felt buried begins to rise. Not something new, but something ancient, something real. You become less focused on how you appear and more anchored in who you are becoming. Not a new creation you must build from scratch, but the one God has already spoken into being. Becoming who you already are means coming home to yourself. And when you live from that place, when you live aligned with truth, with grace, with the divine image within you, stop chasing worth, you start embodying it. And that, more than anything, is where your light begins to shine. There is a kind of life we're taught to admire, busy, selfless, always pouring out. We praise the ones who never stop giving, never say no, never rest. But somewhere along the way, we forget that you can only pour for so long before the well runs dry. You can only give what you actually have. And love, when forced from emptiness, eventually turns into obligation. Kindness, when stretched too thin, loses its warmth. Compassion, when disconnected from self-care, becomes fatigued dressed as virtue. We were not created to live drained. We were created to live from overflow. Jesus didn't live from emptiness. He pulled away often to pray, to rest, to be alone with the Father. Not because he was selfish, but because he was wise. He knew that to truly give, you must first be filled. Living from overflow means prioritizing connection before productivity, presence before performance. It means letting God pour into you not just in crisis, but continually. It's choosing to tend to your inner life, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. It means asking yourself hard questions. Am I giving from love or from fear? From joy or from pressure? From calling or from guilt? Overflow happens when we are deeply rooted, when we allow God's love to saturate every part of us. It happens when we release the need to be everything for everyone and instead become faithful to what we're actually called to do. Living from overflow doesn't mean you never get tired. It means you stop normalizing depletion. It means you learn the rhythm of sacred pauses, of Sabbath, of saying no without apology, of saying yes with your whole heart. You begin to realize that your value is not in how much you do, but in who you are while doing it. That your joy is not a byproduct of perfection, but of peace. That your worth is not earned by emptying yourself, but revealed as you stay close to the source. When you live from overflow, your love deepens, your laughter returns, your soul breathes, and your giving becomes sustainable not because you're trying harder, but because you're being filled first. So slow down, breathe. Let God fill the places you've been trying to ignore. Let His presence become your fuel, not just your fallback. Because from the overflow of the heart the mouth speaks, the hands heal, the feet go, and the light shines. And that's where life truly begins. Somewhere along the road, you may have been told directly or silently that your story no longer holds weight. That because of the chapters you're not proud of, or the silence you've carried too long, or the pain that still lives in the background, your story has lost its shine. But that's not the truth. Your story still matters. Not just the highlight reel, not just the polished parts, but the whole of it. The messy beginnings, the winding roads, the silent prayers, the breakthroughs no one saw, the battles you're still fighting. They matter because God is not just the God of tidy testimonies. He is the God who writes beauty from ashes, who draws light from even the dimmest corners, who stitches redemption into the rawest seams. Maybe you haven't shared your story because you fear it's too much, too broken, too unfinished. But what if the parts you're most tempted to hide are the ones that hold the most healing? Not just for others, but for you. The story of your life is not a mistake. It's not a detour from something more meaningful. It is the path. And your voice, though shaky, still echoes with truth. Telling your story doesn't require a platform. It starts with honesty, with telling the truth to yourself, with saying, "This happened, I survived, I'm still here." And in that simple act, light enters, grace flows. You begin to reclaim what shame tried to bury, because your story isn't just about you, it's about what God is doing through you, even now, especially now. Even if the ending isn't clear, even if the wounds haven't fully healed, even if the redemption arc still feels distant, your now is part of the testimony. And your scars are not disqualifications, they are credentials of survival. They show that darkness didn't win, that fear didn't silence you, that grace held when strength didn't. You are allowed to own your story, fully, gently, courageously, because when you do, you make space for others to do the same. And together, we create a tapestry of light stitched with resilience, mercy, and hope. Your story still matters, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. And real stories are what heal the world. There are moments in life that feel utterly pointless, detours that seemed like dead ends, pain that never received a reason, failures that still sting, wounds that never got closure. We often look at these chapters with silent resignation, burying them under the category of things I wish never happened. And yet, the truth that echoes throughout Scripture and whispers through our own lives is this: nothing is wasted in God's hands, not even what broke you, especially not what broke you. He is the master of redemption, not just of souls, but of stories. He doesn't discard what's cracked, he rebuilds through it. He doesn't skip over the mess, he enters into it. And from the dust, from the silence, from the seemingly useless fragments, he forms something sacred. We think usefulness means perfection, but God uses the imperfect to show his perfect grace. He used a stuttering man to speak to Pharaoh, a betrayed brother to rescue a nation, a weeping widow to reveal courage, a denied Messiah to redeem the world, and he will use your story too. All of it, the parts you celebrate and the ones you'd rather forget. Nothing is lost. Every tear watered something, every delay prepared something, every weakness revealed something deeper. You may not understand it yet, and you don't have to. Trust doesn't require full comprehension, only asks for surrender. When you offer your past to God, not polished, not edited, just as it is, you'll find he wastes nothing. He multiplies the fragments. He recycles sorrow into compassion. He transforms loss into empathy. And he turns shame into testimony. That season you thought was useless, it grew roots. That pain you tried to silence, it gave you voice. That failure you still carry, it carved humility into your strength. Nothing is random in grace. Nothing is thrown away. In fact, it's often the most overlooked parts of our journey that become the most powerful in someone else's healing. So hold nothing back. Don't disqualify what God has already redeemed. What felt like a detour was preparation. What looked like a breakdown was the beginning of breakthrough. And what once felt wasted is now being used for your growth, for others' hope, and for a glory far beyond what you can yet see. We spend so much of our lives searching, looking for peace in places, for worth in approval, for joy in achievement, for love in the eyes of others. We run, we strive, we chase, believing that if we could just do more, become more, fix more, then we'd finally arrive, finally feel enough, finally find the light. But there comes a moment quiet and holy when all the noise fades and you realize something unexpected. The light you were chasing out there was in you all along, not because you created it, but because it was planted there by the one who formed you, breathed into you, called you good, called you mine. The spark of the divine, the Imago Deus, always lived in you, covered, maybe, forgotten, perhaps, but never extinguished. The world may have tried to dim it, pain may have clouded it, shame may have buried it, but light, true light, cannot be destroyed, only hidden. And now, you're ready to see it again. Not because the circumstances have all changed, but because you have. You're no longer searching for your worth, you're standing in it. You're no longer begging for peace, you're building it. You're no longer chasing the light, you're becoming it. And the light in you isn't for you alone. It's for the room you enter, the people you hold, the quiet ways you love, the brave ways you show up, the gentle way you remind others hope is real and healing is possible. You don't need a stage to shine. You just need to stay close to the source. The closer you get to him, the more your light reflects him. Not a spotlight, a steady flame, a lighthouse in the fog, a candle in the dark. You may not feel radiant every day. That's okay. Even the sun sets, but it never stops being the sun. Even when you rest, your light remains. So here, at the close of this chapter, breathe in the truth. You don't need to go anywhere else to become who you were meant to be. You're already on your way. The light is not something you strive to earn. It's something you were born to carry. And now that you've remembered, it's time to shine. Not perfectly, not always loudly, but consistently, authentically, faithfully. Because the world doesn't need another performance. It needs presence. And your presence, anchored in grace, rooted in love, illuminated by truth, is more than enough. You are light, you are hope, and you are home. If you've made it this far, thank you. Not just for watching, but for showing up, for yourself, for your story, for your soul. May this message stay with you long after the screen fades. May you carry the light you've remembered tonight into every room, every silence, every season. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming, and that, dear one, is beautiful. Until next time, keep breathing, keep trusting, and always remember, you are the light, and you are deeply loved.